Hi, I'm JP and this is The Factory. Today we're going to be talking about the Carvey, and the Carvey is a 3D CNC milling machine. By now you've probably watched the video on 3D printing, and the Carvey is actually pretty similar to the 3D printer in the sense that it uses the same process of just a machine that converts your design into code for it to understand and basically build your product. So the difference between the CNC, Carvey, and 3D printer is the 3D printer is an additive manufacturing process whereby you're melting filament and building up a material, whereas the Carvey uses a drill bit to take out of material to create your project. So there are very many steps to making your project, and we're going to go over the external and internal features as well as the software features of the Carvey. Alright, so now we're looking at the inside of the Carvey. The first thing you'll notice is the platform that we have. The Carvey comes with a 8-inch by 12-inch platform, and that is a non-configurable platform, so we can't expand or change those sizes. Usually with something like this, you will not even always get up to that 8-inch by 12-inch size because of the clamps. It has a smart clamp and it has several clamps that have to be on the sides before you start your cut. Also, it has a depth of 2.75 of Z depth, so you'd want to take that into consideration when you're choosing your drill bits, because the length of your drill bits will also affect the depth of cut that you will have with the Carvey. So right now we're just going to go ahead and set up our board and put in the clamps just so you guys can see how that would function. So what you want to do is lift up, depending on the depth of your material, you want to raise your smart clamp to be exactly at the corner of your material. Because we're going to put in our board to just show you guys how the clamps work. So the first thing you want to do is lift up your clamps, and that would correspond to the height of or the depth of your material. And also we have different sets of clamps for different types of tool bits. So if you have a much wider material, you would want to use a longer pin to hold your clamps down. I'll just add an extra clamp on the sides. Alright, so another cool thing about the Carvey is that it comes with different drill bits, and we can get all these drill bits from Inventables. They're usually $10 per set for a drill bit, and we usually recommend that you come in with your own drill bits just so that you're kind of like aware of the material you're using and making sure that you're using the right drill bits for it. We do have some drill bits in space, and we will help you, with your projects using our drill bits when you're kind of like just learning how to use it. Also, the drill bits range from like a 1/16 to a 1/32 fishtail bit, all the way to like a ball end drill bit for smoother cuts. Another important thing to keep in mind about the drill bits is that they come in different color codes for different types of cuts. So engraving cuts, or for really smooth detailed cuts, all those details are on Inventables. Alright, so what we're going to be doing now is replacing a drill bit. To replace a drill bit, get your two size spanners. They both come in the kit, or ask for them when you're in the space. And basically, you hold and rotate in opposing directions. And that would release your drill bit from the spindle. And when you take out a drill bit, you want to make sure you put it in a place that's secure, because it can get lost very easily, and you definitely don't want that happening. Alright, so now we have a 1/8 fishtail drill bit, and usually the way you know the size of the drill bit is it's written on the ribbon, but sometimes also if you're keeping them in sets, it's usually written on the container. So to tighten it, we're just going to do the same process, except we're going to be moving in the other direction. And once it's tight and secure, I want to make sure it doesn't pull out or anything. Alright, so we're going to be talking about the easel software. The easel software is the software that comes and works with the Carvey. You can also use other kind of like CNC cutting software, but the Carvey I found is the most easily accessible, and it's kind of like made specifically for the Carvey and other inventable CNCs. So a few things to know about the easel software is that it is a web-based browser software. So as long as you have access to the internet and a browser, you can access easel. It is connected to your computer and connects to the Carvey via the printer cable, and the software can also account for a lot of user end settings. So now we're going to go into easel and we're going to set up our account. If you already have an Inventables account, you can just log in, but if you don't, you can basically create a free account. Alright, and now we're going to go into easel. So on the home page, if you've logged in before, you'll see all the projects you've worked on, and it usually saves everything that you've worked on, including the settings and the materials and the dimensions you use. So that's pretty cool. You don't have to kind of like lose things you've created in the past. So for this, we're just going to start on a new project. So if you remember, I said that the Carvey only does 2.5D cutting, and that is kind of just what the platform works with. So you have to keep that in mind when you're doing your file creations, wherever you're making your files from. Also, the easel software works with SVG files, so usually I'll just create my files in Illustrator and upload them here and import them, and they work just fine. For this, we can just go in here and see a little bit about the features that we have. One cool thing that the easel software provides for is just an accessibility of different materials. So it doesn't matter what kind of like, if you have an idea of what material you want to cut, there's probably already a material type listed in the drop down option for you. And when you do select that material type, as you'll see here, a lot of things change, not just the material depth, also the depth of pass and the cut settings in here usually change with those materials. So if you had like something, let's say HDPE, you see the cut settings kind of change to adjust for that material. There are different types of fill methods. There's the x-axis and the y-axis raster method. These are usually kind of like pro settings. The offset settings works just fine as well. You can also custom feed rate and plunge rate and depth of pass settings, but usually I would always just stick to the recommended. As long as you're using the correct material type and you're using the correct bit, you shouldn't have to worry about changing your cut settings that much. We'll go into the bits. So as you'll see, there are different types of bits that kind of correspond to the color codes we talked about with the Inventables drill bits and end mills. These will usually just be listed on here, and you can change and select them as you continue with your project. Over here we have a detailed preview that simulates anything that is in the cut-in board. We're going to work now and just like import some already created files that are on here. So in here in the app library, there are different generators of things that are already kind of made here on the website that you can just import into your projects. There are different kind of like tools, utilities, and other options that you can just import and kind of have on the go. We can also use the machine option to select your machine. So for this, we're using the Carvey. And the first thing we're going to want to do is to download the easel driver. Alright, and now that it's downloaded, we're going to just allow it to install. Let's try that one more time. Alright, maybe we should try extracting the files first.
Tienen estas máquinas que son como tienen en madera, pues tienen un láser que hace impresiones como se ve. Es una pistola y tienen, esta es como para plástico, para eso de cañitas o cosas. Puedo notar cámaras así, pero todo así.
Alright, and when that's finished, you are basically set to go. Whatever you upload in your menu will basically happen there. So now we're going to cut, and I'm going to go find a file. Snip, snip, cut, cut. So basically we're going to go into in the Inventables website, and they have a lot of projects that you can start on that basically will take around 15 minutes or less. And what we're going to do is this custom bow that is going to engrave some parts as well, so we can get into engraving. So on this side of the software, we'll have several options that you need to take into consideration. We have the object depth, so this determines how deep your cut is going to be. For now, we're just going to deal with an engraving, so we don't need it to go that deep. We're also going to select the proper material. In there right now we have an MDF board, so we're going to select that, and also going to put in the proper dimensions, and it's an 8-inch by 10-inch board. My 12-inch, my bad. And the thickness here, it is 0.5 inches thick. And over here in the simulate panel, you can kind of see when you have your object settings right or wrong. Clearly we don't have them set up in the right dimension, so I'm going to change those now. Okay, so we can move our object around for wherever we'll need it to be. One thing you need to consider is where exactly the smart clamp is. So whenever you're setting up your object, this area is basically inaccessible for you to use. Coming back to the material, we have two options here for outline and fill, and we even have different outline options. And this is basically for you to choose whether you want the actual object cut out, or you want an outline of the object cut out. So for now, we're just going to leave it as outlined. You also have something for your endpoints, and you can decide whether you want your endpoints curved or straight. For now, we're just going to leave the endpoints because we don't need to edit them. Also for shapes, you have different positions for your object. You can put it in the X, Y position, or you can also change the dimensions by just clicking in and just typing in the dimensions you need. We can also change the size, change the height. You can lock those so that they increase and decrease with the same ratio, and all that good stuff. So for now, we're just going to leave everything as it is. We have different icons that we can add to make this even more interesting. There are definitely a lot of designs that are already handmade, so you don't always have to kind of like build your own thing, so to speak. We also, as I went over different apps and utilities and different cut settings, we have an alarm setting for the cut settings. We're going to go back and select a 1/8 inch bit. Alright, so now we're good to go, and we're set to start our cut. So now that we're ready to carve, all we need to do is hit carve, and it's going to bring up a series of questions to make sure that we're set, and it's going to ask us to confirm the thickness. So we're just going to go back in there and make sure we have it cut to the specific depth we need, and then we're going to hit carve. So before you hit carve, you want to make sure you have the correct dimensions of your material. If you have a caliper, I would recommend you measure your materials to make sure that it's the correct height, and then we can confirm material thickness, and we can hit next. And as long as we've done secured all the clamps, confirmed our drill bit, we can basically start carving. Now that we're done, we're going to see a carve complete thing pop up, and you can just click on saying whether it looks great or not so great. And it looks great.
For more information, go to library.unt.edu/thefactory.